Twice this season, we've seen a team do something that was meant to be impossible. They made a leap in performance that completely shook up the pecking order on the grid. Aston Martin did it at the start of the season, shaking off the shackles that kept them 7th in the Constructors' Championship in 2022, instead becoming Red Bull's biggest competitors. McLaren then did an Aston Martin in Austria. Can I call it that, doing an Aston Martin? The drivers have gone from competing for scraps to competing for podiums, and that brings new pressure to the team. How is the teammate battle at McLaren going to develop as the two incredible young talents get their first chance to show what they can do? Let's find out. As turnarounds go, McLaren have pulled off one of the all-time great ones. When it comes to mid-season improvements, it has to be the best, doesn't it? After 2 rounds this year, the British team were pointless with a car that was so slow it struggled to get out of the first section of qualifying. Shoulders were down, morale was dented, egos were in tatters. Even if they knew there would be early season pain, having changed development direction for the 2023 car late last year, forcing them to start this year's campaign with a compromised car. It's one thing to expect discomfort, quite another to cope with it when it comes. But when the first iteration of the real 2023 car hit the track in Austria, with a complete remodel put on both cars at the following race at Silverstone, the sense of relief among the papaya-clad faithful was palpable. Since the upgrade, Lando has admitted that he was seriously considering a change of team to try and get into a competitive car that he's more than worthy of. Like Aston Martin had done over the winter, McLaren had succeeded in making a giant leap in performance. Over the course of the last 4 races, they've scored 86 points. That's 6 more than second-placed Mercedes. Only runaway championship leaders Red Bull have scored more. Just over 83% of the current points tally has been accumulated since the upgrade was introduced. The MCL60 in the hands of Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri is now not just a regular in Q3 and a point scorer, but a genuine threat for podiums and the front row. To add to the excitement surrounding the team, another big package is expected after the summer break, which is aimed at making the car easier to drive, something that McLaren have really struggled with since Daniel Ricciardo joined the team way back when. They're also blessed with 2 of the most promising drivers on the grid, 2 of the most likeable as well. Piastri brushing off the Sainz incident in Spa won me over. Norris is very loyal, and while he had pondered a change as McLaren struggled, his strong preference was always to stick with an operation that has become family, and with whom he has a contract until the end of 2025. His rookie teammate Piastri made a breakthrough after around 7 races, and has since proven he was worth fighting for with a flurry of consistently brilliant performances that put him neck and neck with this highly rated teammate. While having 2 incredibly gifted drivers is a blessing, it has proven to be a curse plenty of times before. Mercedes' inability to control Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg resulted in some incredible inter-team battles. Ricciardo and Verstappen colliding in Baku is another highlight. What about the multi-21 Seb battle between Webber and Vettel in 2013? And how could anyone forget Hamilton tweeting his and teammate Button's telemetry in an attempt to prove McLaren was sabotaging him in 2012? From what we've seen so far, Piastri seems far too professional to get tempted into an inter-team battle on the scale of any of those, and Norris seems to have settled. Now he's the team leader at McLaren, but the prize of podiums does crazy things to drivers. Lando Norris saw off Daniel Ricciardo so comprehensively during the course of their 2 years as teammates at McLaren that Ricciardo was shown the door a year before the end of his 3-season deal. You can actually learn more about that by checking out our last video after this one. Ricciardo's replacement Piastri will have been under no illusions about the scale of the challenge he faced by going up against Norris. But on the face of his first half season at McLaren, Piastri has justified the reputation he brought with him when he arrived in F1, having won consecutive championships in Formula Renault Eurocup, Formula 3 and Formula 2, only to be unfathomably left on the sidelines for a year by Alpine. Has Esteban Ocon shown anything to make you think he was more deserving of a seat than Oscar has been? So far, Lando Norris has had the upper hand, showing the same form that sent Danny Rick back to Red Bull. He's winning 10-2 in qualifying, 7-3 in races they've both finished, and has just over doubled Oscar's point tally. He has had upgrades a race earlier than Oscar as McLaren have leapt up the standings, but in Spa, Oscar had the upper hand in the sprint and in the main race qualifying. Who knows what would have happened in the race if Carlos Sainz had been more aware of his surroundings. Since Sainz left McLaren, Lando has been completely unmatched by his teammates, but now that Oscar is showing some great form, the situation is changing. Former racer and Sky Sport pundit Naomi Schiff doesn't see how Norris could be enjoying this moment, even though having a strong teammate will push him to give his best. "I have to be honest, I don't think there is a way that he can really be enjoying it," she told Sky F1. "I do think it is a positive for him to have a teammate in the garage next to him that's quick, that's bringing in valuable data to move the whole team forward. But of course, as a driver, the number one person, as much as they call this a team sport, the number one person you want to be is your teammate. Every Formula 1 driver has admitted at one point or another that their teammate is the one person they want to beat more than anyone else. Each car is different, so the only true measuring stick a driver has is the person in the car on the other side of the garage. Lando will have been feeling pretty good about himself in recent series, especially considering how highly thought of Daniel Ricciardo still is, despite getting demolished by Norris." Naomi said at the Belgian Grand Prix, "Obviously, qualifying on Friday was slightly different for Lando. He went off at turn 14 and caused some damage to his underfloor, and therefore he lost the ultimate performance in the car. However, Oscar was able to outpace him in qualifying fair and square, so that's going to be putting some pressure on him. But I think it's positive pressure. As much as he might not like it, it'll be good for him. It'll be pushing him to pay more attention to detail, and ultimately, when you've got a driver next to you that's pushing you, you become a better driver yourself. Lando has had a couple of years now where he hasn't had that internal pressure to improve. Daniel may have provided it for half a season, but Lando had the measure of him pretty quickly. No one is suggesting that Norris hasn't been pushing himself to be better and to compete at the highest possible level, but the addition of the pressure provided by an informed rookie teammate will be pushing him harder. It'll keep him at the track that extra few minutes analysing setups after practice. It'll make him work that extra % in training. And that's only good for Lando and McLaren, even if it doesn't always feel like it. Norris has previously talked up Piastri, saying he is pushing him a little bit more than Daniel Ricciardo managed as McLaren teammates, while more recently he spoke of their mutual desire to help McLaren return to the sharp end of the grid. "We get on really well. He's extremely good, a competitive, good teammate. I think we've already built up a good amount of respect and trust toward one another. We've both got the best interests at heart for the team." But he added, "When you get to race for first and second, that's when things can change a huge amount. Seeing these two battling at the sharp end of the grid will be incredibly entertaining. They are a few race wins away from actually fighting with each other. For now, they'll work together to secure McLaren a first race win since 2021. The team are a long way off an inter-team battle for a driver's championship, which is when the fiercest of battles happen. Ricciardo and Verstappen came to a head as Max eclipsed Daniel at Red Bull. Hamilton and Rosberg only exploded after Hamilton had won 2 championships. Vettel and Webber took 3 seasons before they became true enemies. Things at McLaren have a way to go yet, but when you have 2 young, incredibly competitive drivers in your garage, they will do anything and everything to prove themselves, no matter the cost. What have you thought of McLaren's season so far? And how long will it be until Oscar and Lando clash on track? Or will that never happen? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.